have Maxwell. He is a serial entrepreneur who built a multi-million-dollar real estate investment company in less than 2 years. After being negative $438 in his bank account, Max got his first contract, sold it for $14,000, and never looked back. He's best known for wholesaling, has a Facebook group, Wholesaling Houses Elite, with over 90,000 members. His YouTube channel has surpassed 150,000 subscribers, with 200 plus videos teaching people how to make money in real estate. With little to no startup capital, Max is a first-generation American of Jamaican descent. He resides in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Please put your hands together.
Good? Can you guys hear me? We good? Am I good? I can yell loud enough if I need to anyways. How are you guys doing today? Good. What's today, Saturday? All right, you guys can hear me, right? Yep. Right. So how you guys doing today? Excellent. Thanks for having me in Florida. I appreciate that. It's warm down here. For show of hands, I don't know who's in the room, but how many flippers do we have in the room? A lot of flippers. How about wholesalers? Good. Okay. And like buy and hold people. There you go. Passive income. Love it. Yeah. It's the gold, right? It's always the gold. How many of you guys know what wholesaling is? Some of you don't. You've probably done it and you have no idea what it is. Well, let me tell you my story. So I am a first-generation American, like he said. And about 3 years ago, I was broke. A little over 3 years ago, I was living at my mom's house. But before that, let me go all the way back. My parents came here from Jamaica in the late 70s to pursue a better life. Education and all that stuff like that. And I'm thankful for that opportunity. So I was born in New York, spent some time in Jamaica, and I grew up in North Carolina. All my schooling went through North Carolina. You know, I was never a good student. I just put that out there. I was a terrible student. I was so bad that in high school that you have to have like a 2.0 to play sports. And every time report cards came out, I would get kicked off the team because I just didn't have the grades. And I always wanted to be like this tip-top athlete, but you gotta have grades now, so I started doing that thing. So that didn't work out for me, but when I was in high school, I learned out that I was dyslexic. Right, so the reason why I was not a good student, I thought I was bad, I didn't do anything crazy, it's just that I didn't like going to class, because I had a hard time reading and seeing numbers, and everything was backwards for me, but I didn't understand. I thought I was just crazy, just to find out it was actually something that was wrong with me. Well, they said that something was wrong. I used it to my advantage. So I found out by junior year I was diagnosed with dyslexia, and I didn't let it stop me, because when you have something that is inferior, you try to get something else to overcompensate for something that you don't have. So I started to be able to memorize things a lot better because I was not able to read as fast as everybody else. What would take you guys maybe 2 hours to read a book, it would take me a day, right? This took me a lot longer, so I had to overcompensate with other things. But at 17, I realized, hey, I'm not going to go to college or play any sports because I can't even pass the SATs, much less really want to take them. So at 17, I went off to the military. I joined the United States Air Force, had some good times in there, some great times. Traveled all over the world, and I think that's one of the reasons, I think traveling is, if you like to travel as much as you can. It opens your eyes to what you have and what you don't have, so it allows you to see different cultures and different people, just to really understand the world in general. So if you have the opportunity to travel, please do so. So I had the opportunity to travel for free with the Air Force, and I loved every single bit of it. But I was kind of unsatisfied. And I went in at 17, but then my time was up at 21. So I got out of active duty, and I wanted to do something different. So I got into real estate as a broker, traditional broker, buying and selling real estate for other people. And I didn't really like that either. It was boring. Take all my weekends driving somebody around for them not to buy a house. It's a waste of time, right? So I didn't like that either. I said, listen, I already went to school. I got to do something else with this. So I was sitting in a friend's house that was a mortgage broker. He has a guy on the phone from California. He really hates the people that he has managing his property. And my friend knew I had the aspirations to want to open up a property management company because I just can't deal with running people around every weekend. So luckily he's on the phone with him. The guy's like, look, I want to switch companies. Do you know anybody? He's like, yeah, I got a guy sitting right in front of me. He has a good company. I don't even have an LLC yet for it. But he's like, you got a good company. So the guy's like, hey, put me on the phone. He puts me on the phone. I talk to him. I was like, yeah, I can do it, blah, blah, blah. He sends me over a spreadsheet, a couple $1 million worth of property he wants me to manage. I know South Florida, that's like a house and a shed, right? That's a lot of property, right? So I'm in North Carolina. I'm managing multifamily. I'm managing single family, some commercial stuff. And it's just amazing, and I love that world of it. What I loved about it, that he was calling me and just saying, hey, look, I got $70,000. I want to buy a property, and I want this amount of return. Go get it for me. And I loved that. I was able to go out and do that all the time for him. But then obviously 2008 hit. How many of you guys know 2008, the crash, huh? How many people got burned during that? It's okay. So my business, 90% of what I did as a real estate agent and broker was wrapped up in this guy's assets. So when he started selling, yeah, I made a little bit of money, but he got rid of everything. And with that went down my business. At being that old, at 21, 23, 24, I thought the world was going to end. Here I am, I was in the military making about $19,000 a year, and I come out, and I'm probably netting like $60,000. Yeah, I'm rich, right? But as he starts to sell his properties, I got nothing to manage. I only get a percentage of the rent that I collect. So you know what? I was like, I'm going to pack up. I'm going to head to California. I have no idea what I'm going to head to California for. I go to California, and I stay with my cousin for a little while in the Jeep that they were looking for because I couldn't pay the note anymore. So I went to California. Another story, another day. I'm just telling you guys at the bar later. But I'm in California now, and I just start going into other things. I'm like getting into marketing. I'm getting into everything else. And I get back into the corporate world. Not the same as the military, but the corporate world. Still the same stuff, right? And then again, I found myself unsatisfied. I don't know. I just didn't like it. But this time when I'm unsatisfied, I'm broke. I ain't got no money. So what is everybody doing? They got no money? Well, I don't know what you guys do, but I went back home and lived with my mother, right? I know she's Jamaican, so she's gonna cook good food, and she's gonna make sure I'm good, fed, fat, right? Everything else will take care of itself. So at 30 years old, I had to move back home with my mom. How many of you guys ever moved back home with mom at 30? Raise your hand. Don't lie. Right? You got one honest guy in the back right there. It wasn't fun, was it? How many girls did you have open? Right? There's no point in going out because nobody's coming. It's weird, right? You got to eat dinner at 6, right? You still got a bedtime. I'm 30 with a bedtime. So I didn't enjoy that. I was like, I got to get out of here. I got to get out of here. But I was so hungry. Oh, by the way, they took the Jeep back in California. Right? So they rebuilt the Jeep. So I'm driving an 04 Volkswagen Jetta with a bad starter. How many of you guys ever had a bad starter on a car? Raise your hand. Now we got more honest people in here. So if you got a bad starter on a car, what do you got to do to start that thing? You got to push the start. There you go. My guys had the same system. You connect, right? You got to tap on the starter with something heavy. Every time. Oh, you know too. Okay. So to fix the problem was $175. I could barely put gas in the car. So I damn sure wasn't going to spend the money to put a new starter in it. Listen, as long as I carried a hammer underneath the passenger seat, it was like an extra key. It didn't matter. Right? So everywhere I'm going, can you imagine this? I'm driving to the gym. I try to get there at 6 a.m. in the morning. Not anymore. You see, I don't go to the gym anymore. But I go to 6 a.m. in the morning. I'm at the gym with my friends. We're working out. We get done about 7:30. I walk into the car, and I got to sit in the car, and I got to wait for most of everybody to leave the parking lot. Why? Because I don't want them to see me knocking on the car with the hammer. So I'm in the car just listening to music, acting like I'm doing things on my phone. As soon as everybody leaves, enough of the people I care about, I grab the hammer, pop the hood, I run around the front, tap the car. Now, if you've had it, tell me what you don't do after you tap the car, tap the starter. You don't close the hood because you don't know if it's going to start. You jump back in the driver's seat, it doesn't work, you can do it all over again. So I did that, man. It was just such a humbling experience to go from having what I thought was okay, good money, living a decent life, California, all over the place, to going back home at 30 years old. But something changed my life. Remember, I told you guys I was dyslexic, so reading wasn't my thing. So to be completely honest with you, at the age 30 was when I read my first book cover to cover. I mean, I didn't read Dr. Seuss when I was in school, none of that stuff. None of that stuff. So from cover to cover, I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And that book, I know everybody says, but that book made me think about everything that I thought I knew from the age 1 to 30. And I just started to rethink everything. And it opened up my mind. Then I found Audible. You guys know what Audible is? You can listen to the damn books. You ain't got to read them no more. So I just started getting Audible. I just was getting new emails, because every time you sign up, you get one free book. So you got to go create a bunch of Google emails, and now you get this book, and this book, and this book. So I got 20 books. I got 30 emails, 20 books. But I'm now listening to books because I'm like, this is where the power is. It's inside these books. But Rich Dad, Poor Dad opened up my mind to begin to start thinking again. Right? It was just amazing. So here's the thing. How many guys ever flew? Who flew here? Did anybody fly here? Right? What did they say when you got on the plane? Get ready to take off. What did the flight attendant say? There was a safety briefing, right? Right? They buckle up, safety briefing. So one thing they say every time you get on a plane, it's mandatory for them to say this. They says, in case we lose cabin pressure, the oxygen mask is going to drop from the ceiling. Right? And when that oxygen mask drops from the ceiling, it doesn't look like it's got oxygen in it. It might not be inflated, but I promise you there's oxygen in it. I want you to put your oxygen mask on and breathe. But make sure you put that oxygen mask on before you help the person next to you, even if it's your own child. So if you take that in life, you take that same scenario, that same safety briefing that they didn't give us, and you apply that to life, life has turbulences, up and down, and sometimes life can lose cabin pressure. How many of you guys remember 2008? Didn't it feel like life lost cabin pressure? But if you believe and trust in yourself, and that oxygen mask drops from the ceiling, it may not look like it has oxygen in it, but make sure you put that mask on and breathe. And if you breathe, which is keep pursuing and proceeding through life, then I promise you, you're going to be okay. But before you help anybody else, make sure you secure your own mask. See, it's human nature for us to always want to help somebody when we need help ourselves. But I learned something over the last 3 years. Sometimes you have to be selfish in order to be selfless. What does that simply mean? It means that you need to help yourself before you can reach back and help anybody else. How many of you guys try to climb a ladder with one hand? It's hard. So it's better you get to the top and throw a rope down and pull everybody else back up. So this is one important thing that I learned. So when I found wholesaling, let me tell you how I found wholesaling. One of my friends, his dad was rich. We knew he was rich since we were kids. We just never knew why he was rich. So one day, talking to him like, hey, yo, isn't your dad rich? Like, we're broke. Isn't your dad rich? Let's go talk to him. Right? So we go talk to his dad. We go to the house, big, nice house. We go to the basement, and he's got like 3 computer screens on his desk. I don't know how he knew that we were coming, because I don't think we called, but he had a PowerPoint presentation ready for us. I was like, what the hell? This guy's a full PowerPoint presentation, and he starts talking about real estate and talking about how he became a millionaire and how he's wealthy, how he has over 300 doors, 200 doors, and he collects, and he's showing us checks every month of $200,000-$300,000 of just a rent roll. Like, Jesus. And then he goes over to this big filing cabinet in his office. It's like the big ones. And it's like 3 or 4 levels. And he opens up the filing cabinets, all manila envelopes in there. And he says, these are all my properties. And he goes, and I'm just sitting there like, shit, I got to get gas to go home. I hope he doesn't, you know, sometimes you leave people's house, they stand at the front door and they wait for you to leave, right? They're waiting for you to start your car. I'm like, I hope he doesn't see me get this camera out. So in that whole time, he's talking to us for those 3 hours, what felt like 3 hours of him telling us how rich he was. He said the word wholesaling, and that's how he got started. I'm like, what is that? And from there, I just typed it in the notes on my phone, and I just blanked out for everything else he said. And I went home, And I just started Googling. I started YouTubing. I started podcasting. And I didn't come out of my room for about 3 weeks. And I don't know how many of you guys got immigrant parents, but you have to eat when they say eat. As soon as they turn the stove off, you better come downstairs. My mom was not having it. 6 o'clock, get downstairs and eat. I am knee deep on YouTube University. I can't leave class. I'm in it. So 3 weeks later, I graduate with my master's degree in wholesaling from YouTube University. I got the printout and everything. And what do? I start driving for dollars. So how many of you guys have ever overdrawn your bank account before? Come on, be honest. All right, cool. I thought I was the only one in. Shit. So I know that Bank of America will let me go about $300 deep before they cut my card off. Right? So if you buy Snickers for $1, it's $36. Y'all done it before, right? You know what I'm talking about. Fucking $36 Snickers is pretty good, right? So what you do is you fill your car with gas. I don't care what. Put the premium in there too, because I think they say it lasts longer. But whatever you put in your car, add $36 to it, because that's what Bank of America is going to charge you for using their money. I'm cool with that. I know I'm at my wit's end. Bank of America is it. I'm like $300. I filled up the car for the last time, and I said I'm going to drive for dollars. And I go drive for dollars in the neighborhood that I grew up in North Carolina. On the same street I grew up on, I found a house that is exactly what they're talking about in the podcast and the YouTube. It's got tall grass, the bushes are unkept, trash is everywhere. I'm like, this is it. I'm about to be rich. So I look the property up. I go to the tax records and I look the property up, and it says something like Betty Sue Ayers. That's a weird last name, Ayers. Who's no Ayers? So I go home to try to find this person. Come to find out, heirs mean that you passed away and your people that come after you are your heirs. I didn't know that. I thought it was somebody's last name. But I don't know anything about how to find this person now. So now I learned a new word. So Google is your friend. So what led me from heirs led me to what they call probate. So I need to find out about probate. A lot of people don't take the initiative to find stuff their own. Now these days, they'd rather ask the question than to go look for it. So probate led me to that my city has a probate office. So what do? I walk myself down to the probate office and I say, hey, can I get the file for Betty Sue? And she says, yep, I'll be right back. Oh my goodness. I had on a nice jacket and everything, looked like a lawyer. I was like, this must be the jacket. So they hand me the file and I open up the file and I have no idea what I'm looking at. But I don't care, man. I got negative $300 in my account, and I gotta win. I'm looking through this file, and there's this file called Administration Application Letter. And that simply is the person that is applying to be the administrator of the state, has their name, their address, their phone number. I take a picture of it. I go to my car. I did not start it right away. The hammer story, right? So I'm in the parking garage, and I make that phone call, and this lady picks up. And she says, hey, I'm a real estate investor. Guys know I had negative $300 in my account. I was not a real estate investor, right? So I say, I'm a real estate investor, and I see that you have this house on Flintfield Drive, and I want to purchase this property from you. And she says, well, you actually called at the right time. She's telling me this whole story, how she let a friend rent it out. She inherited it from her great aunt, and they hadn't paid rent in 6 months. They left the house. It's all abandoned. Like, they don't know what to do. They can't afford the taxes. I'm like, this is exactly what they talked about in YouTube University. This is it. This is like prime. So I says, well, what do you take for it? And I said, I don't know the rules at this time of negotiation. And I said, well, you take 30 grand for it. She said, well, I don't know. Let me talk to my husband. He has a crazy job where he's on the road all the time. I'll call you back in a few days. Cool. So before I can get my car started, she calls me back. And she's like, how about 35 or something like 40,000? And I'm like, how about 38? We got a deal. And I'm like, oh my goodness. I'm sitting in the car. I got negative $300. I just told this lady I'm gonna give her $38,000. You know, remembering from YouTube University, if you have a deal, people are gonna come. And I went home. I took my mom's lawnmower, put it in the back of the truck. I got the hedge clippers, and I started cutting this grass. Started cutting the bushes, because I know I had to take a picture of it. And I did all that, and I stand back and I take a picture with my iPhone, and I put it on Facebook Marketplace. And before I can rake up everything, car drives up. Lady comes out with her family and says, "Is this the one for sale?" Hispanic lady. I'm like, "Yeah, go inside. Back door's unlocked." Actually, there's no back door. Go back there. She goes in and she comes out about 5 minutes later. She said, "Oh, it's too much work, but thank you for letting us show it." Not too long after that, I'm packing up, get a phone call from a lady. "Hey, do you have a house for sale?" I sure do. She's like, "Well, my husband, we just finished flipping a property, and my husband's out of town, but can we come see it this weekend?" "Sure." Long story short, this guy, Greg Pontillo, becomes my first buyer. You'll never forget your first deal, let me tell you that. Greg Pontillo calls me. He says he wants to see it. Then his wife goes see it, and they agree to a term. And I remember September 28, 2016 is when I got the contract. October 6th is when I signed it and made $14,000. Right? So there goes my first deal, all within just the hustle mentality. So I go from negative $300 to $14,000 in my account. Woo! Right? So now I'm addicted. This was cool. Remember, military, it took me a whole year to make $19,000. This guy just handed me a $14,000 check. I was getting shot at 19 grand. I just cut some grass for $14,000. I'm addicted, right? So I just start going and going and going. In about a year's time, I made almost $1 million, $800 and something thousand that year. Still living in my mom's house, right? Eventually I left, right? I had to go to the bar. You know what I'm talking about. I couldn't have any girlfriends over, so now I went and got a small apartment. But the story, what I'm saying is that wholesaling is the gateway drug to real estate. It gives everybody in this room, I don't care what financial position you're in, or whatever it is, gives you the opportunity to get into real estate and learn real estate. And from there, I now own multifamily properties, I own apartment complexes, all this stuff, all within 3 years. So everybody understands what wholesaling is, right? If you don't raise your hand, I'll explain it. I got no problem. I'm here for like 45 minutes. Perfect. Wholesaling is real simple. You go out and find a problem, a distressed person that owns a property that they want to sell it fast. They want to sell it for cash, for whatever situation. You could inherit the property, you could be behind on mortgage, you could be moving, relocating, getting remarried, get a divorce. Whatever the problem happens, they need to sell it fast. We negotiate a price on that property for a deep discounted price. In return, we're offering them cash in 30 days or less. Once we get that contract, we get what we call equitable interest on that property. So we then now, for that 30 days, for that 20 days, whatever how long we have it on the contract, we can go out and do whatever we want to do with the property. Now, we don't own it, but they can't do anything with it either. But they agreed to sell it to you for X amount of price for 20 days. Now it's up to you to go out and find somebody that is in the business, how they make their living on flipping properties. And if the price is good enough, that person is going to pay you a fee for assigning them your rights in that contract so they can go execute it to go do what they want to do with the property. And that's why I say most people have probably already done wholesaling, they just didn't know. Because flippers sometimes commit to too many properties. They see a couple of good deals, then they commit to 3 properties, then they're saying, wait, I only want to do 2 of them. Then they hand one of the properties to their friend for like a $3,000, $5,000 fee. That's wholesaling, right? So what we do is we make it a repeatable process and we create a business out of it. We spend a lot of money marketing to distress situations, abandoned homes. We go very in detail to find somebody that does not want to be found, and we get that property. I mean, I've bought properties from people in prison, people in Mexico, people in all over the world. I've bought properties from people that just abandon things. And it's a real problem for the neighborhood because it brings down the value of the neighborhood when there's a abandoned property. Sometimes there's crime, going on in that property. It's bad for the city because they're not collecting taxes on the property, which is sitting there abandoned. It's dangerous for the kids that live in that neighborhood. And it also hurts the property value around it. So us being able to find that person, getting that house under contract and getting it restored back to its proper value and the proper thing is what we do. So we solve problems. That's all we do. We solve problems that most people won't go out and solve in real estate. These type of properties won't be listed on the MLS because they're distressed, right? And with distressed properties, real estate agents are just going to tell you to fix some things up, and they're going to allow you to go out. They won't list it unless it gets to a certain thing. So wholesaling is real simple. We just made it a repeatable process and turned it into a business, right? This year we'll do over $2 million in just wholesale fees, right? And with that, you can buy whatever properties, and then we have a whole flipping side of the business. A lot of times we cherry pick the best deals, and we flip those ones, or we cherry pick the best deals, and we syndicate and buy apartment complexes with people. So it's just a gateway drug to real estate. You don't need any money, any all that other stuff. You just need hustle. Hustle is the currency to enter this game. So my story is, I've been able to tell my story over the last couple of years on YouTube. It's been able to inspire a lot of people that they can go out and do it too. Because I'm nothing special. You're looking at a first-generation American dyslexic, can't hold a 2.0 to keep playing football in high school, to a guy that's a multimillionaire that has a staff of 14. We're building a new 8,000 square foot office to house 85 people. It's just, you can do this all in a very short amount of time if you're willing to put the hustle in. It's all about hustle and developing relationships and solving problems. So I don't want to stand up here all day long and just ramble. I know some of you guys may have questions. I love doing the Q&A aspect because it allows you guys to be selfish and ask direct questions that you actually have questions on instead of just hearing me talk about my life story and how we do it. So we have a microphone here. It looks like we're going to be lined up right here. That way we can get it on audio. And I'll try to repeat the questions if you guys can hear it. Yes, sir.
Well, I want to ask you, can you explain more? How did you buy a property from prison?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So there was a property in North Carolina. I forget how much it was. I know it had a few acres with it. It was a property. The guy that bought it actually had a windfall. So he came upon some money either from a lottery or something. He bought a property. Anyways, he was addicted to drugs and he actually got locked up. He got locked up in Florida in a prison. So he was in a state prison in Florida. And we had to go through, each prisoner has like a counselor or their social worker. What is it called?
Social worker.
A social worker. Each prisoner has a social worker. So I had to get on the phone and talk to this guy or send an attorney and do it however you want to do it. And I had to tell him, hey, look, I can get you, probably 2 million honey buns in there. Yeah, I mean, that's the currency, that's the trade. I can get you those cigarettes because you're smoking, but I can get you 2 million honey buns. I can trade this property for 2 million honey buns, and you'll be set for the rest of your sentence. No, but seriously, you go in there, and once they agree to that, you send the contract to their counselor, he's a social worker, and that social worker will they have a notary in prison as well too, and they'll sign that and notarize it, and we have an official contract, and all the closing attorney or the title company is going to send all their documents to their social worker to get everything signed. So even though you're behind prison, you're behind bars, you can still sell your property. You do whatever it takes to solve a problem.
I have a few questions.
Yes.
So one is regarding wholesaling. What's the best way to close a motivated seller? I know motivation, usually they want to sell it, so it's easier.
Yeah.
And then the second one has to do with owner financing. After you've gotten your wholesaling business up and running and everything's going well, how do you transition to that?
Good questions. So what I really talk about a lot is that we're problem solvers. So essentially, you can't convince somebody that wants to sell their property for $1 million to sell it to you for $600,000. It's just not going to happen. But if somebody has a problem that they're willing to solve, we've all done it. We've all paid more for something for convenience, or we sold something for less just because the timing was correct, right? So if you can go out and solve someone's problem. See, negotiation and selling is all about finding a pain point, right? So if I go to a car dealership to go look for a new car, there's a couple reasons why I need a new car. One, it could be the end of the tax season. I just need to spend money because Uncle Sam's going to take it. So now I need to show you everything that's in your budget. Two, your car could be currently broken down, and you need to get you something from A to B. So once I'm talking to you as a person, I love talking to people. Once I find out what your pain problem is, I'm going to try to solve that because that's all you care about. And if I can solve your problem, you're going to give me what I want as long as I give you what you want. So selling is all about a win-win scenario for people, right? So always try to find the problem, identify the problem, and solve it for that person. Remember, there's two things in every contract and every real estate deal. It's going to be the terms and the money. And no two person can get both, right? So if you want to sell your house in 7 days, I'm going to give you less money. If you're willing to wait and you want to do terms, I can do everything all the way down to owner finance. So let's talk about owner finance. I really don't do owner finance deals, but what I love doing is subject to deals. So what I do is subject to is essentially when you buy a house subject to the existing financing that it has. Right? And I don't really talk about this much because it's a very complex way of investing. But essentially, I'm going to give you a story of a house that I just bought a few weeks ago. A lady was 8 months pregnant. She was going through a divorce, and we were like weeks before Christmas. They were 3 months behind on a mortgage on a house that was worth $200,000, and they owed about $120. Let's just say, I don't remember the exact numbers. They owed about $120 on it, but the house was in disrepair, right? Because they had dogs and they had children, and they never had the money to fix it, so you couldn't put the house on the market. So the house was worth $200,000 fixed up. She needs money now. She didn't have a car. She was going through a bad divorce, and it was something that she couldn't do. So I agreed to pay her $25,000. So if she has $120 in it, let's just say $125. Now it's $150 in the property because she's got an existing mortgage for this, and I remember I had to pay about almost $6,000 to cash the mortgage up, right? So total, I got about $31,000 cash into the property. But with $31,000, I gained a $200,000 asset. One, that's great for taxes because now the line item deduction when I do my 27.5 year is the value of the property, right? And then two, my assets just went up, and there's no way in the world that you can turn $25,000, $37,000 into a cash flowing that's going to give you X, right? So what we were able to help her with is she needed the car, and she needed it now. So what I did, out of that $25,000, I took $8,000 and I helped her to get a car. And she was pregnant. She needed to go back and forth to the doctors. So nobody else can do that. So I gave her $8,000, and then we went to closing, and I gave her the rest of the money. So what happens is now the property goes into a trust because I don't want to trigger what they call a due on sale clause. So the trust is named after their family. So it just looks like whatever. So the point that I'm making is we're able to solve her problem. We inherited a property that's worth $200,000, and we only got $31,000 in. We're only going to do about $7 to $10,000 worth of fixing in it. And the mortgage on it, the PITI, was only about $900, and it rents out for about $1,600. So for about $31,000, maybe $40,000, I created a positive cash flow of about, $400, $500, $600. So that's the subject. So I love acquiring properties in that way, subject to. Now, owner finance is great. If you can find somebody that does owner finance and that's willing to give you a flat payment over a certain amount of time, it's like zero interest. It's the best way to go, and you can wrap it with something else. And that's why I said wholesaling is just a gateway drug. Once you get in it, there's so many creative ways to do things, it's going to blow your mind. But start at the wholesaling, get creative, and you're going to run it. What happens is you're going to run into problems that you can't solve through wholesaling. Because the numbers didn't work. I couldn't wholesale that property. I couldn't buy it for $120, then wholesale it for X. So I had to go in there and do something creative for it to work. And she still walked away and solved the problem. I hope I answered your question.
Hey guys, my name is Mello, and I saw on one of your YouTube videos, you were on FaceTime with William Dennis, you were speaking about wide marketing strategies, and you also talked about deep marketing strategies very lightly. Can you expand on what deep marketing strategies really mean?
Yeah, so we have, in my company, we do two types of marketing. We do wide marketing and deep marketing. So what wide marketing means is that we're going to blast out to any, for example, somebody that owns a house in South Florida that lives in Colorado is called an absentee owner, right? But you guys got a lot of what they call snowbirds that come down here. But so whatever, absentee owners are wide marketing, right? So essentially, I'm going to send them a letter or whatever it is every 30 days. Hey, I want to buy your house. I want to buy your house. And what happens is they're probably not motivated, but there's a possibility they could be. So that's wide. So deep is when you actually go after identifiable problems. One is where you hang out at the probate office because people have inherited properties that they don't want. It could be tax foreclosures. That's a deep marketing. It could be properties that have when they have problems with it, they get a code violation list. Code violations. Those are all deep markings because you've identified a pain point and you want to go deep on that because you know there's a problem. So anything that you can identify the problem up front, foreclosures, all that stuff, that's called deep marketing. We spend more money on that deep one because we can identify what the problem is and try to solve it.
Have you ever just stood at a probate office waiting for people?
Waiting for dead people?
No, that was
No, so there's a system, right? So if you understand how your county probate office works and how they intake files, then you'll understand the frequency of how often it goes. Now, I know in most counties, probably somewhere in East South Florida, they're probably all online. So if you study online, right? So if you know the probate office as good as you know Snapchat, because I know you know Snapchat good. You right? All right, so if you know the probate office as good as you know Snapchat, then you'll be golden. You can probably all do it from home in your underwear. Yeah. Thank you. Good luck to you.
Hey Max, how's it going?
Doing well,
I
thank
have
you.
a quick question. Me and my team, we're doing deals, but a problem that we're running into right now is, we talk to the sellers, and we our number, everything's good. Just when we send them the contract, they have a problem not signing it. And then when we call them, it just goes dark on us. I don't know if it's something that we're doing wrong or if it's some miscommunication.
100%. I'm joking. His question was, he gets good deals, he goes to the house, he goes to solve their problem, he sends them a contract, they never sign it, right? That's because what happens is you haven't set enough confidence in them that you're going to do exactly what you said you're going to do, right? Because if we agree on numbers, we agree on terms, and you present the contract to me at home, first of all, that's one mistake. Right, so anytime I'm dealing with somebody in town, I'm going to get it signed. Here, listen, I don't go to properties to view them. I go to them to buy them. So when I'm at that house, there's a contract in my hand. I'm not going to go home back to my office and send you something so you can go fill out. No, it's just you need to tighten up your process. Because once you agree, once the iron is hot, could imagine this. Imagine if you came to a car lot and this beautiful car, I'm showing you this beautiful car and it just looks great and you're ready to go and you're like, this is the car I want. I said, great, come back in 2 weeks and I have it ready for you. You're like, what? That's how long it feels when you say you're going to go back to the office and send a contract. You need to have enough confidence in yourself where you have the contract pre-filled out, except for the numbers, and you just get it signed when you're there. Right? Yeah, absolutely.
Hey Max, my name is Jason. I have two questions. The first question is, when you had no money, how did you buy the property?
I did, right? So a key thing about wholesaling is you never actually purchase the property. So when I first started, the only thing that I actually did contracts with no money, which I wouldn't advise people to do, right? So you have to have some type of considerable consideration on the contract in order for it to be binding, right? But in wholesaling, all you simply do is you get the property under contract. So what my company does now is we only put down $200 for each contract. $100 goes to the escrow company, and another $100 goes to the seller for me to buy what they call due diligence period. Right? So I usually like to do a 5 to 10 day due diligence period because what that does allows me as a company, as an investor, to do my due diligence. Because when I leave that property, I may not find a buyer because I did it wrong. But if you properly bought time, which they do in every real estate deal, if you ever sold anything retail, there's a due diligence period. And you pay for it. It's just something you give up. So I never actually bought the property. So when I first started, I had zero money down in escrow, zero money down. I wouldn't really recommend that unless you really got to do it. But zero money down in escrow, zero money for the due diligence period. Back then I just said an inspection period. You never bought it. So you have this contract that gives you equitable interest, right? So let's just say if this MacBook right here, if this guy was selling this MacBook because he wants back home and he needs to buy a ticket next Friday, right? That MacBook, he comes to me, I meet him in the hallway, he says, I want to sell this MacBook, it's like brand new. I spent $200, you can buy it for $250. I say, cool, meet me here next Friday with the money. If me and him sign a contract, between now and next Friday, he can't do anything, he can't sell that. I mean, he could, but I could sue him, right? Just if this was higher numbers. So the point is I have what they call equitable interest in that MacBook. It's his, but it's mine too. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So until Friday, he can't do anything with that. So between now and Friday, it's your job to go out in the hallway and find somebody that'll buy it for $300.
Got it. My second question is, if someone had, so do you speak to the people who are buying the property first to see what they're looking for?
No.
Or do you just go wide and do you care about the neighborhood that you're buying property in?
A neighborhood's important, right? So you don't want to put a property under contract in an area where nobody's flipping, right? So I don't know the areas down here enough to be like, hey, nobody's flipping in that area yet. But if I know that MacBook is worth $1,200 and the guy just gave it to me for $250, and I know I'm only going to sell it for $300, I don't need my calculator to know that's a good deal. Somebody in this audience that's probably not even looking for a computer has $300 in their pocket but just knows it's a good enough deal that they're going to do. But then there could be somebody in this audience that owns a computer repair shop that knows he can sell this thing for $700. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So a true deal always has a buyer.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Hi, Max.
How you
My
doing?
name's Candy. So I did my first deal with your 30-day challenge.
Congratulations.
One of my questions I wanted to know, because I was explaining this to somebody else, that first deal netted $12,000 and I split it with somebody, so we both got $6,000. I was really uncomfortable coming from being a mortgage broker. I did not know how to do this, so I simply started right $3, which was day one. What you told us to do to work through the process. From that time, I've been absolutely obsessed with watching every video and every bit of information that you have put out on YouTube.
Thank you.
I probably know Maxwell better than Max does.
Probably.
But, I guess one of my questions is there a place where you can actually go instead of reading through all the YouTube videos where it just gives you that 30-day challenge? So, because I've talked to other people who don't have a clue on how to do this, and I've always said you need to do the 30-day challenge through Maxwell. And they're like, is there some place where I can go that I have all 30 days?
Yeah, so we have it posted on our Instagram starting from November 1st, I think it was,
Yes.
all the way to the 30th. So if you just go back and watch that in that succession, you can do it that way. But I've been anti-force. I've been anti-guru for a long time.
Right.
Like, I don't have nothing to sell you guys. I'm just happy that I'm rich and I want to share with you guys. I know that people learn in different ways. So me and my team are working on trying to put out something that people can consume in their own timely fashion where they don't have to go hunt for it. I'm a hunter, so I like getting in that deep YouTube hole, right? So, but I know other people like to have it condensed in here. So we're working on it. We're just so busy. But if they really want to go now, go to my Instagram, start November 1st, and work their way all the way.
Do you still have the RE? I think it was the REIA Pro program that you know what I mean? For the skip tracing and all that. You still do that?
REI Skip?
Yes.
Yeah.
You still, okay. That is still an option too then?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for helping me. And I did not plan her.
I was going to say, because of this, you can take a photo with me for my vision board.
I will do that.
All right.
You can do it right now.
How you doing, Max? I'm Brian. I do the disposition works for me and my team. So we have a pretty strong buyer list for like South Florida, but we do a lot of JV deals in like Northern Florida, and we don't really have buyers like that, so we're looking for buyers.
And where at?
Let's say Polk County, for example. We have buyers now, but we're always looking to add more buyers.
Yeah.
So when we pull a list, I wanted to know, is it better to speak to the buyers individually, or when we get a deal, just blast out to everybody?
Individually.
Individually?
Yeah, and then you need to start looking outside of people that are already buying real estate. That's one of the mistakes we do as wholesalers or anybody that has a turnkey company. We always look for people that are already buying deals. I like to sell my deals to doctors and dentists. I know they have money, and I know that they have to spend it, the same reason I have to spend it. So they understand real estate, it's a tangible asset, so start looking outside the traditional way.
So like look for first time home
No,
buyers?
not first time home buyers, but people that have money, that are W-2 rich.
Okay.
I like that.
Well, Max, my name's Andrew. How are you?
Doing well, so.
Just had a quick question. What's your opinion on getting, the most efficient way of getting your first deal? Like the quickest way?
Being consistent.
Being consistent.
Yeah, this goes back to a lot of things in life, man. Even I was there. I had 12 failed businesses before I started this. So there's a lot in my story that I don't really talk about. But what happens is we're never consistent with anything. I mean, you get excited. You might find me on YouTube one night. 3 weeks into it, you're on cryptocurrency. Right? It just happens. It's just how we are as people. So you got it. The best thing I can say, there's not one marketing method that's better than the other. There's not something, you just have to be consistent. Consistency is the only thing that separates you from being successful. And moving fast. Speed is everything. So move fast and be consistent. Be obsessed. I was just talking with a billionaire back there in the room earlier, and I was like, and him and I have the real same obsessive personality. And he was saying that if he wasn't addicted to this, we'd be addicted to something else. I thought if I wasn't addicted to real estate, I'd be a crackhead. Because I get so addicted to this stuff. So you need to go out and be addicted to this, because once you get it, it's going to keep going and going and going. I promise you're going to fall in love with it.
Now, would you choose cold calling versus direct mail? Or, like, what is the best way?
What's your budget?
1,000,
Cold call.
5 to 1,000.
Cold call.
Cold calling?
Get over the fear. And the reason why you ask me is because you hate getting on the phone. I can tell because you're nervous answering your questions.
You're right.
So the point is you have to get over that, right? Because the next phone call could be that $14,000 phone call.
Yeah, absolutely.
You got to understand, it's just a human. You can be calling this guy or this guy. They can't do anything to you. Just call him, ask him if you want to sell. If he doesn't, hang up. Next one. Right? Because you're solving their problem. You're not asking them to do you a favor. Hey, do you want to sell this house? Yeah, okay, let's talk. If not, great. Have a great day. It's that simple, I promise.
Makes sense.
Absolutely.
Hey Max,
How you doing?
my name is Aaron, and I'm looking into the whole, YouTube world of real estate.
Yeah.
And wholesaling is a thing that keeps popping up,
Yeah.
especially because of the low entry point. And I was
People are
wondering,
selling shit.
yeah. I was wondering, have you ever gotten stuck with a property after having it under contract? And if so, what did you do?
No, so that's what's important. Remember I said I have this due diligence period that's 5 or 10 days? So the moment I get a property, I'm calling somebody. Like, how many cash buyers do we have in this room? People that buy. See, I'm already calling these people 24 hours. And if y'all wholesalers, you need to be looking around. I said, how many cash buyers in there? And I see nobody swivel necking. I'll be swivel necking and taking pictures with these people. The point is, I put a 5 to 10 day due diligence period in my contract, which allows me to be able to speak to any buyer that I have. And that legally gives me the right to cancel that contract within those 5 or 10 days with no remedy.
Did you do that in the first deal as well?
I did not, because I did not have the knowledge. But that's why I'm standing here to be able to tell you.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
Okay, so you kind of just got lucky and then you learned about all that stuff.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. I mean, because I flip a lot of properties now, right? So I'm selling a property now, it's like $200 grand. You know how much the seller is giving me as a due diligence check? $300. Right? So I'm not doing anything wrong by offering somebody $100 on a house and I'm buying for 50.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you get what I'm saying?
You can lose that 100 or 200 if you don't go through.
Absolutely. That's the gamble I'm ready to take.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And if you don't have the money, put $1. Or don't put anything. Put 10. Anything that is considerable consideration. Yes.
How you doing, man?
Doing well, sir.
Appreciate you for coming down.
Thank you.
And I thank you for responding to my text message this morning.
Oh, that was you. Okay.
Yeah, so I was wondering if you could kind of explain your philosophy on business structure if you just get into wholesaling.
Yeah. If you're just getting in, you're just a one-man band, one-woman band. You got to do everything on your own. Remember, I started out all by myself. Yeah, I may have 14 employees now, going to like 85, but you got to do every aspect of it. The reason why you need to learn every aspect, because in order to scale, you have to start firing yourself from positions. So eventually where you just sit back and you're just doing, you're just overseeing. And then if you build a well enough machine, you could be on the Bahamas somewhere making checks. That's the ultimate goal. Buy passive income, have active income, get a lot of passive income, don't hang out somewhere. So don't worry, don't get to that philosophy yet of where like, oh, I need to be worried about building my team and structure. No. Go get enough deals, go know what you know, and then you'll know when the deals start falling through your hands because you have so much, that's when you know you need to start hiring. But don't worry about structure and all that stuff. You are the janitor and you're the CEO right now. You're welcome.
Good afternoon.
How you doing?
So I'm interested in getting involved in the wholesaling, but I'm coming from a real estate background. I'm a realtor. And my question, I guess, to you would be, have you ever had a seller back out because you were signed a contract?
Mm-hmm. Oh,
And how did you
because I
overcome-
signed the contract?
Yeah, because when you first go in, you're going in as, I'm purchasing this property from you.
Yeah.
And then 10 days later, 15 days later, I'm bringing you another buyer and saying,
We're not
How-
saying that.
okay,
So,
explain.
so here's the thing. So cash buyers, raise your hand again. Okay, so these people are my partners, right? And they know that. So when I go into a house, business and anything in business is all about setting an expectation. So when I walk into a house, I used to go on all my appointments. I still go on a few just to make sure I'm still, because my staff is testing me like I don't know what you're talking about. They go, oh, you just on YouTube. No, I will kick your ass. I'm better. Right? So I walk into a house, first thing I'm doing is I'm setting expectations. Right? So I'm going through the house, talking to them about stuff, and then I interrupt them. I said, well, let me tell you a little bit what we do. I'm a local real estate investor. I buy properties for mainly two reasons. One, I'm either going to buy the property and make it as a rental property, do a little bit of fixing, or two, I'm going to buy the property and go completely HGTV. You watch that show, HGTV? So you know the granite countertops, new roofs, new floor, new bathrooms. We go all the way out, right? So me and my partners, that's what we do. We probably buy between 7 and 10 houses a month, right? I just seen 7 cash buyers, right? So we buy between 7 and 10 houses a month, right? Okay, so now I'm telling them that, and I'm saying, well, which one do you think your house fits in? Right? Because now I'm setting them up for the first soft close. I just said I'd take a house, I'm going to buy it, fix it up a little bit, and turn it to a rental property. And then I say, two, I take a house and I do everything brand new. Which one do you think your house fits in? So I already set the expectation that I got partners. So, and the next thing I do is, hey, look, I give them permission to say no. You know, that's why a lot of people run away from salespeople. I'm going to tell you straight up from the gate, listen, I wish I could buy every house that I walk into, but the reality is I can't. Okay? So if we can't come to terms today, it's no problem. We'll still go get coffee one day or something. So I'm giving them permission to say, hey, this don't work, because in our business, a maybe is the killer. You hanging in the limbo trying to chase a seller that's ducking and dodging because your number was too low and you're crazy? You need to hear yes or no. Got it? So set the expectation with the seller up front that you have partners and you work with the team, and that you're out there. And this is true. We meet as investors in my area once every Thursday. So I tell them, either I'm going to buy the deal, or I got friends. We meet every Thursday, and if I'm not going to buy it, I'm going to pass it on to somebody else. But you're still going to get your price. Don't worry about it. You're being honest, because that's really true what you're doing. You're welcome.
Hi, Max.
How you doing, sir?
My name's Gary, and first I want to thank you for all you do to help people to
Thank you, sir.
change their life.
Thank you.
And, I'm not someone who's done a wholesale deal myself personally, but I did work with some people years back, and I was a guy writing the contracts, and they would take it from there. So I never really learned the whole process, and now I'm kind of like, all right, I just seen your videos, I'm like, this guy can do it, you know.
Yeah, right.
So, anyway, some of the things that are said out there, you know, like to talk about, you know, just for clarity, like the due diligence period and the inspection period, are those two separate periods?
Yeah, so I used to have inspection period, but essentially I just call it due diligence period. Why is because that's what everybody that sells 1 or 2 houses their entire life knows it as. Inspection sounds scary.
Right.
Due diligence doesn't sound that scary.
Okay.
So that's what they use in most realtor board contracts.
Right.
Due diligence period.
Okay, because it's like some people don't use a contract, they call it an agreement.
Agreement, correct.
Okay, and one more question. I saw Sean Terry. He had a video, he's talking about where he's not using an assignment contract. He talked about how he would just have the buyer actually buying from him, actually give him another contract with 2 contracts.
It's called double closing.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Because he said someone not using an assignment contract.
yeah, so there's many ways to skin a cat, right? So a double closing is essentially I'm going to take it to closing and I'm going to close on it in the morning and I'm going to sell it minutes later. And the only reason I don't really do that, right?
Okay, so you still do the assignment?
100%.
So
Because how many of my cash buyers care if I assign you the property? Right? As long as your numbers work, it don't matter if I'm making $5,000 or $50,000. As long as the numbers work for them, they don't care. If a buyer screeches at your assignment fee, find new ones.
Right. Okay.
I promise you, they'll buy it from you. Good buyers are hard to come by, but they're out there.
All right. Hope to get to shake your hand.
Absolutely. Come do it now. Hope to shake your hand.
Quick question, since initially in your first deal, I heard you mention how if you knew more about negotiation, you would have said the first $30,000, would you have said that? What would you have said different?
I wouldn't have threw my number out there first, right? Because I anchored myself. Like she's only going to go up from there. She's not going to tell me, oh, I'll take 28. Right? So just being able to, I was just nervous on the phone. I didn't know what I was doing. I had negative $300. So 30 sound like the same as negative 300, right? So I just
So you would wait?
I would wait, yeah, because what happens is when I get on the phone with the seller, or when I go out to their house, the only thing they want from me is a price. Once I get them the price, I'm useless to them. So I dangle that carrot for as long as I can. I allow them to start saying, and it starts with, so what do you think your house fits? And then questions like, so what are houses in your neighborhood selling for? Okay? And then before I ask the prices, I start going around and talking about repairs. So what do you think that kitchen costs? Oh, it's $20,000. Bathroom. Now they're getting prices from, I don't know what you call them. What's the website? They're getting repair cost prices from Home Advisors, right? So they got $30,000 kitchens, $20,000 bathrooms. We don't pay that. We don't pay that, right? So then it starts to add up. And then they're like, yeah, I want $100,000. I'm like, but you just told me it was $60,000 to repair everything. Does that make sense? Oh, you're right. So you anchor them. You allow them to anchor themselves.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for everything
Yes,
today.
ma'am.
My question is, I'm not looking at it from a business perspective, right? It's more create passive income, right? Starting at the age of 30 to have it for the future.
Yeah.
What recommendations, I know I'm going through YouTube University, Conference University, I'm researching, right, for the next...
Slow down on the Conference University. It gets expensive.
Right.
I mean, I know I'm at a conference, but this one was cheap. I like the way they did this.
Yeah, this one was good. So, my first question is, I'm not going to be a broker, but should I get my real estate license to kind of just continue my research? And B, how do you build your network of cash buyers? Like, do I just do it? I wouldn't feel comfortable with my friends in corporate America and say, hey, you looking to buy a house? Like, is there another strategy, tactic, or another way to be able to contact these people?
Yeah, so what was your first question again? Sorry, I got
So my first question is, should I get the
Yeah,
real
so-
estate license just for research purposes?
No, so
Okay.
being a real estate agent doesn't make you a better investor.
Okay.
Most of the times it makes you a terrible investor because you got to unlearn a lot of the things you know about real estate.
Okay.
I'm not passionate about it. I used to be a realtor too. So the second question is, how do you grow your cash buyers list? You work in corporate America,
I do.
right? So good. Keep your job until you're ready to leave. Don't be trying to leave nowhere. I'm not going to pay bills, right? The idea behind that is you need to start telling your friends that you just purchased a rental property. Bring it up at the water cooler. And then you'll start seeing who else is interested in that. And you start talking more about real estate on your break, and you see who else is interested. You say, I could probably get you a property like I just got. Whatever that is. But that, and always don't be afraid. People love, this friend. It's crazy that people and their friends don't talk about money. And then if you don't want to ask them directly, say, hey, do you know anybody that's looking to buy a rental property? Don't ask them. Ask them if they know anybody. Right? Because if you're at a certain level in a W-2 job, you're surrounded by the similar executives, right?
Yes.
So you need to be having that conversation. Hey, you know anybody that's buying rental property? I just, I'm looking to buy one, and I just bought one or something like that, or I have one that I might be interested in selling. And then that conversation starts to trickle. But then the thing is, what I love to do is anytime somebody asks me, hey, how you doing? I'm doing well. I'm just looking to buy one more property this month. I'm like, what? I said, I'm just looking to buy one more property this month. And what you mean? Oh, I'm a real estate investor. Yeah, anytime you see the stretched property, let me know. I'll buy it. That just sparks a conversation. So always be telling people about it. Don't be afraid to talk about it.
Thank you.
Absolutely.